Misty's here in studio, and when the questions now, when this briefing comes up, we'll start to get into some of the legal questions, but right now there's a lot we don't know. For example, we don't know anything at all about the suspect they have in custody, it doesn't seem to me.
No, not yet. So this is the process, though, that we're going through, right? So the first thing is to identify if there's an active threat. There was. Now we know that threat was neutralized. So the next step, preserve the area for investigation. And we know there's somebody in custody. So that's where it begins, Connell. We know investigators are going, they're looking at the digital footprint, they're talking to friends and family. The person has been identified, at least to law enforcement. We don't know yet, but they're going to look for, number one, opportunity. How did that person acquire the gun? And number two, they're also going to be looking for motive. And all of that is going to be really the focus of these initial steps in the investigation.
We were having a conversation earlier, especially on college campuses. It applies to some of the high school shootings we've covered as well. When, and again, we don't know if it was a student. We don't know who the person was that they have in custody or who the shooter was in this situation. But when usually there's something when you look back, and hindsight's always 20/20. So, I should have said this or I should have noticed that. And then from a legal perspective, I was bringing up that sometimes people do say something, but then, you know, there's not a lot of action that the officials can take on that unless it's something that they really can act on. When can they act?
Yeah, and it depends, Connell, to your point. So what they're going to go back and first thing they're going to look at, does this person have a criminal record? Have they engaged in violent acts before? That's why they're going to look at that digital footprint coupled with what is on the books. Has this person maybe hasn't actually been arrested? Has there been a call about a threat or some type of violence? So all of that is going to be part of it. And to your point, Connell, when can they act? When there's probable cause that a crime was committed. So it's going to be super fact specific about whether or not, even say somebody called with a complaint about an individual, made a police report, well, was there enough evidence to actually follow through with an arrest? So that's going to be part of it. A couple of other legal issues I'm going to flag right now.
Sure.
Obviously, Florida has very expansive gun rights and laws with respect to acquiring, having guns. It's a concealed carry state, but there's an exception, and there's a whole list of exceptions. One of them is school and college campuses. So this gun was definitely illegally on that campus to begin with. So that's going to be a legal issue to flag.
Interesting.
And also, legally acquire a gun, you have to be 21 years old. We don't know who the person in custody is. We don't know if it's a student or somebody who is not affiliated with the school. We don't have that information, but that's going to be another thing to listen for. Was this person 21? So that gets into the legality with respect to having that gun on campus. Obviously, they committed a crime with that gun. That's a whole other issue. It's a capital murder case.
You think about Florida as being relatively lenient with their gun laws, generally speaking. Is that fair?
Correct, yes.
But you're saying on college campuses,
yes.
Never allowed.
There are exclusions to where a concealed weapon can be carried, in college campuses.
Okay,
one of those.
That's a very good point. We'll see if it comes up. Another alert from what they call FSU Alerts, which is the social media account from Florida State University. They go through a list of buildings that are currently closed and are still an active crime scene. If you want to weigh in on this, Tracy, the Student Union is one. Bellamy, HCB Classroom Building, Revette A and B. I don't know the details of all of these buildings. We showed you on the map, though, earlier, and I remember some of these names had popped up. The Auditorium, which is Moore Auditorium, Shore, Pepper, Hecht House, and Caraway. So the idea is, see, some of those, I believe, are on that screen, some are not, but in and around the Student Union. That's the rest of it, Tracy, they're letting people go and letting people walk around. So talk about how this investigation, I know the FBI is involved, by the way, is being handled.
Right. So what this sounds like to me is they have actually a rather tight crime scene, if you will. It's for the most part limited to the area in which these buildings are, rather than through the totality of the university. So what it also sounds like to me is that they were able to almost track this suspect from where it started to where it ended. And it is very critical that obviously no one goes into those active crime scenes. But the other interesting thing is, as well, is the initial reporting was really just talking about the student union.
Yes.
12:30 on a campus is a very busy time, particularly around the student union and all of those surrounding buildings. And so in my opinion, this is someone who really thought about the time frame to conduct an attack like this. And that's really disturbing to me, and I think we'll factor in later when they look at charging of this individual. But what that tells me is that this crime scene is not just limited to the student union, which is, I think, what was initially reported. When exactly did this shooting start? And I think it probably started back before that. Another thing, though, I do want to add is actually Florida lowered the gun buying age at the end of March from 21 to 18. So I think that's an important thing
Interesting.
to think about as well. But as Misty said, she's absolutely right. They are not allowed on campus. They're not allowed on the campus I teach on, and they are definitely not allowed on Florida State's campus as well. But that age did just get lowered a matter of, what, 2-3 weeks ago.
That's an interesting point that could speak to ability to buy a weapon.
Right.
You know,
Still be an issue with
wouldn't
having it
have
on campus.
You still
Right.
wouldn't be able to have it on campus. Quick thoughts, Misty, before we have another witness standing by in a moment.
Yeah, Tracy brought up some really good points. And one thing, you want to keep this crime scene clean. A tainted crime scene can be a tainted prosecution. So that's why you see some of these areas being limited as far as access. And the other pieces, we're talking a lot of video evidence potentially, because this is a college campus. There's likely cameras on some of these buildings that will help track the path of the shooter. And we'll answer some of those questions Tracy raised about, well, when did this begin? Where did the individual enter? Where are these other areas that are potentially parts of that crime scene?
Both Misty Marris and Tracy Walder are here. I'm Connell McShane in New York. A quick break.